Just a few months ago, it looked like Philadelphia's championship window had slammed shut. The 76ers barely survived the opening round, then were completely overwhelmed by the New York Knicks in the Eastern Conference semifinals. What was supposed to be a season that pushed the franchise back into title contention instead exposed every weakness on the roster. Their offense became predictable. The defense broke down under playoff pressure, and by the end of the series, they no longer looked like a team that was only one move away. They looked like an organization facing another disappointing reset. Around the league, many analysts believed major changes were inevitable, and that's exactly what happened. The front office wasted no time reshaping the roster. Management moved on from key pieces, reworked the supporting cast, and made one aggressive move after another. Jaylen Brown arrived in a blockbuster trade. Additional veterans such as Anthony Simons and Dean Wade were brought in to improve depth, perimeter shooting, and defensive versatility. Those moves alone would have changed expectations for next season. Then Philadelphia made the move that instantly became the biggest headline of the NBA offseason. LeBron James officially chose the 76ers. That decision surprised almost everyone. For months, rumors connected LeBron to several destinations, including Cleveland, Miami, Golden State, and even retirement speculation. Instead, he selected Philadelphia, joining a roster that already featured Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, Jaylen Brown, and promising young guard VJ Edgecombe. On paper, the talent level immediately became one of the highest in the league. Instead of trying to rebuild around one superstar, the Sixers suddenly found themselves with multiple all-star caliber players sharing the floor. The projected starting lineup now looks loaded with experience, scoring and playmaking. Maxey brings explosive speed and shot creation. Brown provides elite two-way production and championship experience. Embiid remains one of the league's most dominant centers when healthy. Edgecombe gives the team another athletic defender with long-term upside. Then comes LeBron James, arguably the greatest basketball mind of his generation. Looking strictly at talent, very few teams can match that combination. Naturally, the first question isn't whether the roster looks impressive on paper. The real question is whether adding a 41-year-old LeBron James actually moves Philadelphia into championship favorite territory. Surprisingly, the answer may be yes. Not because LeBron is expected to carry the franchise the way he did early in his career, but because he no longer has to. Age will always dominate the conversation. LeBron is entering his 24th NBA season, something no modern superstar has ever attempted while still performing at an elite level. He has logged more NBA minutes than any player in league history, and no athlete completely escapes the effects of aging. Last season, there were moments when he conserved energy more carefully, attacked the rim less frequently, and relied more heavily on his basketball IQ than pure athleticism. Those changes are real, and pretending otherwise ignores what naturally happens to every player. At the same time, judging LeBron by the standards of a typical 41-year-old doesn't make much sense. Even during what many called a quieter season, he still produced numbers most all-stars would gladly accept. He remained one of basketball's smartest playmakers, continued creating scoring opportunities for teammates, and proved he could still control games without dominating every possession. His ability to read defenses, slow the pace when necessary, and deliver the right pass at the right moment remains among the best in the NBA. The biggest difference is Philadelphia doesn't need LeBron to average 30 points or play 40 minutes every night. That's what makes this situation unique. Throughout most of his career, every roster was built around LeBron. He handled the ball, controlled the offense, and carried enormous responsibility every night. This time, the burden is shared. Maxey has already developed into an elite scorer. Brown has shown he can lead a championship team. Embiid remains the focal point inside. LeBron's role becomes much simpler. He can focus on organizing the offense, creating easier scoring opportunities, and making everyone around him more efficient. That may be the most dangerous version of LeBron James. Instead of carrying a roster, he becomes a player who connects every piece together. Basketball history has repeatedly shown that veteran stars often extend their careers when surrounded by younger elite talent. They don't have to dominate every possession because they can pick their moments, conserve energy, and still influence winning at the highest level. Philadelphia appears to be giving LeBron exactly that environment. Another reason this move has generated so much excitement is the financial side. Reports indicate LeBron accepted a contract worth far less than many expected. If those figures hold true, Philadelphia isn't paying superstar money for superstar production. They're paying role player money for one of the smartest players the game has ever seen. That dramatically changes the risk. Even if LeBron misses games or plays reduced minutes, the contract leaves the organization with flexibility to continue strengthening the roster around him. Ultimately, this signing isn't about expecting vintage LeBron James to dominate the league again. It's about adding one of basketball's greatest leaders to a roster that already has elite talent. If he stays healthy and accepts the role Philadelphia has envisioned, the 76ers may finally have the balance they've lacked for years. Instead of asking one player to rescue the franchise, they'll have multiple stars sharing responsibility, while one of the greatest basketball minds in NBA history quietly pulls the strings behind the scenes. That's why this move has the entire league paying attention. It isn't just another superstar changing teams. It may be the final piece that transforms Philadelphia from a talented playoff team into a legitimate championship contender. The contract itself may reveal more than the headlines ever could. Reports indicate the deal is structured for 2 seasons, giving both LeBron James and the 76ers flexibility. If he decides he has one more year left after the season, the option is there. If he chooses to retire, Philadelphia isn't locked into a massive long-term financial commitment. From a front office perspective, it's a low-risk investment. From LeBron's perspective, it sends a clear message that this decision was never about chasing the biggest paycheck. It was about giving himself the strongest possible opportunity to compete for another championship before the end of his career. Think about the alternatives that were discussed all summer. A return to Cleveland would have created an emotional story. Joining Golden State would have reunited 2 of the NBA's biggest stars. Staying in Los Angeles would have allowed him to finish where he became the league's all-time leading scorer. Instead, he chose Philadelphia. That tells you he evaluated every roster, every coaching staff, and every championship path available to him. Few players understand roster construction better than LeBron. After more than 2 decades in the NBA, he recognizes which teams only look good on paper and which ones have a realistic chance to compete deep into the postseason. His decision suggests he believes the Sixers roster gives him one of the best chances left to compete for a 5th championship. Of course, Philadelphia now carries enormous expectations. Adding LeBron doesn't automatically guarantee success. It simply raises the standard. Every playoff series will be judged by one question: can this group finally deliver what previous Sixers teams could not? It's also important to remember that LeBron wasn't the first major move Philadelphia made this offseason. In many ways, the transformation began weeks earlier with the organization's decision to completely move on from Paul George. When George first arrived, the expectation was that he would become a reliable two-way star who could reduce pressure on Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid while giving the team another dependable scorer during the playoffs. Unfortunately, injuries repeatedly interrupted those plans. Instead of becoming the missing piece, George struggled to stay on the floor consistently, and the production never reached the level Philadelphia expected when they made such a significant investment. Over 2 seasons, the results simply weren't good enough. Injuries to his knee and other physical setbacks limited both his availability and his impact. By the time Philadelphia was eliminated from the playoffs, many around the league believed the partnership had reached its natural conclusion. The organization faced a difficult decision: continue hoping for better health, or make another bold move before wasting another season of Embiid's championship window. The front office chose the aggressive approach. Rather than making smaller adjustments around the edges, Philadelphia targeted one of the league's premier two-way players. The deal that brought Jaylen Brown instantly changed the direction of the franchise. Brown arrived in Philadelphia still in the prime years of his career after establishing himself as one of basketball's most complete players. Unlike George, Brown brings durability, athleticism, championship experience, and a confidence that comes from performing at the highest level under playoff pressure. Brown's recent production shows exactly why Philadelphia valued him so highly. He's capable of scoring at every level, defending multiple positions, attacking in transition, and handling difficult assignments on both ends of the floor. More importantly, He's already proven he can thrive in championship-level basketball. That experience matters because playoff basketball demands consistency far more than regular season success. The contrast between George and Brown is impossible to ignore. Philadelphia essentially exchanged uncertainty for reliability. Instead of wondering whether injuries will limit their star wing again, they now have a player entering what many analysts consider the best years of his career. That alone dramatically raises a team's ceiling before LeBron even enters the picture. Then LeBron's arrival changes the equation again. Brown no longer has to carry every offensive responsibility outside of Maxey and Embiid. Instead, Philadelphia suddenly has multiple creators who can initiate offense, relieve pressure from one another, and prevent offenses from focusing on a single player. In today's NBA, having several playmakers often matters more than having one dominant scorer because playoff defenses are designed to eliminate predictable offenses. That's why this offseason feels so different from previous years. Philadelphia didn't simply add talent. They addressed several long-standing weaknesses at the same time. They improved leadership, added championship experience, increased offensive versatility, strengthened perimeter defense, and created far more lineup flexibility than they had a year ago. Whether those moves ultimately produce a championship remains the biggest unanswered question. Talent wins regular season games, but chemistry, health, and execution determine who survives 4 playoff rounds. Philadelphia has assembled one of the league's most impressive collections of talent. Now comes the difficult part, proving that this new group can accomplish what so many talented Sixers teams failed to achieve before them. When Philadelphia traded for Jaylen Brown, the conversation around the franchise changed almost overnight. Brown didn't just replace Paul George. He gave the 76ers something they had been missing for years. He's a powerful two-way wing who attacks the basket, finishes through contact, and has already proven he can be the second-best player on a championship team. Unlike many stars who rely almost entirely on scoring, Brown impacts both ends of the floor. His ability to defend elite wings while carrying a major offensive load immediately made Philadelphia younger, tougher, and more reliable. The front office didn't stop there. They continued adding pieces designed to strengthen the rotation around their stars. Anthony Simons brings instant offense and outside shooting off the bench, giving Philadelphia another player capable of creating points when the starters rest. Dean Wade adds size, floor spacing, and defensive flexibility in the front court, while the team's younger players, including Justin Edwards, Adam Bona, and Johnny Broome, provide athletic depth that could become valuable over the course of a long season. Instead of relying almost entirely on 4 or 5 players, Philadelphia now appears to have a roster capable of surviving injuries and managing heavy minutes much more effectively. Then LeBron James arrived, completing one of the league's most dramatic offseason transformations. Just a year ago, Philadelphia's future depended almost entirely on Joel Embiid staying healthy and Paul George returned to form. Now the franchise is built around Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, Joel Embiid, rookie VJ Edgecombe, and one of the deepest collections of perimeter scorers in the Eastern Conference. On paper, it's difficult to find another team with this much offensive firepower. The projected starting lineup immediately grabs attention. Maxey at point guard gives Philadelphia elite speed and scoring. Edgecombe adds youth, athleticism, and perimeter defense. Brown provides physicality and two-way production on the wing. LeBron becomes a veteran playmaker who organizes the offense. Embiid remains a dominant force in the paint. Individually, each player has proven he can carry a major offensive role. Together, they create one of the league's most talented starting groups. The numbers explain why expectations have risen so dramatically. Maxey has already established himself as one of the NBA's premier scoring guards. Brown continues producing all NBA level seasons. Even in his 40s, LeBron still fills every part of the stat sheet while directing offenses at an elite level. Embiid remains one of basketball's most productive centers whenever he's healthy. Edgecombe, despite being one of the youngest players on the roster, already showed flashes that suggest he could become a future star. Few teams can match that level of individual talent, but talent has never been Philadelphia's biggest problem. That's a lesson this organization has learned repeatedly over the last decade. The Sixers have assembled impressive rosters before, Joel Embiid has shared the floor with Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, James Harden, and Paul George at different points in his career. Every one of those teams entered the season with championship expectations. Every one of them ultimately fell short. That's why simply collecting star players no longer guarantees confidence among analysts or fans. The regular season won't answer those questions. Philadelphia should beat weaker teams consistently because of its overwhelming talent advantage. The real evaluation begins in the playoffs. When possessions slow down, defenses become more physical, and every weakness is exposed. That's where chemistry matters more than star power. Can these players sacrifice touches? Can they accept changing roles? Can they trust each other during the biggest moments instead of reverting to isolation basketball? Those questions will define the season far more than regular season statistics. LeBron's role becomes especially important in that discussion. Earlier in his career, every offense revolved around him. That's no longer necessary. Philadelphia already has elite scorers. Instead, LeBron's greatest value may come as a player who organizes everything else. His basketball IQ, passing, leadership, and ability to recognize defensive adjustments could become the difference between another disappointing playoff exit and a legitimate championship run. Rather than carrying the offense every night, he can pick his moments while making the entire team more efficient. That's why this roster feels different from previous versions of the Sixers. Instead of depending on one superstar to solve every problem, responsibilities are spread across multiple elite players. If everyone embraces their role, Philadelphia has the talent to compete with any team in basketball. If ego, injuries, or chemistry become issues again, history could repeat itself. The roster has changed dramatically. Now the challenge is proving that this version of the 76ers can finally succeed where every previous version came up short. 3 months ago, most people believed Philadelphia's championship window had slammed shut. They survived the first round only to get dominated by New York, and the series exposed every weakness they had. The offense became predictable. The defense struggled to stop anyone, and the roster looked too old, too slow, and too fragile to compete with the league's elite. Instead of making small adjustments, the front office completely changed direction. Paul George was moved, Jaylen Brown arrived, new role players were added, and then came the move nobody expected. LeBron James chose Philadelphia. At 41 years old, after one of the greatest careers in basketball history, he reportedly agreed to a 2-year deal because he believes his roster gives him one more legitimate shot at another championship. On paper, the talent is remarkable. Tyrese Maxey remains one of the fastest guards in basketball. Jaylen Brown brings championship experience, elite defense, and reliable scoring. Joel Embiid is still one of the league's most dominant centers when healthy. Rookie VJ Edgecombe adds youth and athleticism, while LeBron supplies the leadership, decision-making, and basketball IQ that every contender needs. Many championship teams eventually reach a point where talent alone is not enough. Philadelphia hopes LeBron becomes a player who organizes everything, settles a team during pressure moments, and prevents the offensive breakdowns that ruin previous playoff runs. The contract itself says a lot. LeBron reportedly accepted far less money than he could have earned elsewhere. That tells you this decision was not about one final paycheck. It was about giving himself one more opportunity to compete for a title. At this stage of his career, he no longer has to average 30 points every night. Philadelphia already has enough scorers. What they need is someone who can control the pace, recognize defensive adjustments before they happen, and make everyone around him better. Those have always been LeBron's greatest strengths, and they often become even more valuable as players age because basketball intelligence rarely declines. This entire transformation actually started before LeBron signed. Philadelphia knew the Paul George experiment had failed. Injuries constantly interrupted his availability, and when the playoff arrived, he never became the dependable third star they expected. Trading him for Jaylen Brown immediately made the roster younger, more athletic, and far more physical on both ends of the floor. Brown arrives with championship pedigree after proving he can perform under postseason pressure. Unlike George, Brown is entering his prime rather than leaving it, and that changes the long-term outlook of the franchise. The supporting cast improved as well. Anthony Simons gives Philadelphia another guard capable of creating instant offense, especially against second units. Dean Wade provides size, defensive versatility, and dependable outside shooting. Young players such as VJ Edgecombe, Adam Bona, Justin Edwards, and other developing pieces give the roster far more depth than it had a year ago. Successful teams today rarely rely on only 5 players. Modern championship runs demand 8 or 9 reliable contributors because injuries, foul trouble, and fatigue become major factors over an 82-game season and 4 playoff rounds. Now, the biggest question becomes fit rather than talent. Last season, the 76ers ranked near the bottom of the NBA in assists. Too often, Maxey had to create everything by himself, while Embiid carried enormous offensive responsibility in the half court. That approach becomes easier to defend during the playoffs because opponents know exactly where every possession is headed. LeBron changes that immediately. Few players in NBA history have controlled offensive flow better. His ability to read defenses, deliver precise passes, and slow the game when necessary could completely reshape Philadelphia's identity. Imagine the possibilities. LeBron secures a rebound, pushes the break. Maxey races ahead. Brown attacks the wing. Edgecombe cuts behind the defense, and Embiid trails into the play. Suddenly, opponents have multiple threats to defend instead of focusing on one player. In the half court, LeBron can run pick-and-roll actions with Embiid, while Maxey flies around screens and Brown attacks rotating defenders. Those layers create decisions that defenses struggle to solve. Even if LeBron scores less than previous years, his playmaking can make everyone else more efficient. There are still legitimate concerns. Outside, shooting remains the biggest question. Maxey is a proven perimeter threat, but defenses may still choose to help off Brown, Edgecombe, or even LeBron in certain situations. Embiid can stretch the floor, but he is most dangerous near the basket. During the playoffs, elite defenses will intentionally crowd the paint, force difficult outside shots, and test whether Philadelphia has enough consistent spacing to punish double teams. That means ball movement and player movement become essential rather than optional. Nick Nurse will have one of the league's toughest coaching assignments. Having multiple stars does not automatically produce great offense. Everyone must accept smaller roles at different moments. LeBron will have to screen more. Brown must continue moving without the basketball. Maxey cannot stand and watch once he gives the ball up. Edgecombe has to attack closeouts confidently instead of hesitating. Embiid must trust teammates when double teams arrive. Those habits separate championship teams from talented teams that disappoint in May. Health may determine everything. Embiid's injury history remains impossible to ignore. LeBron has taken incredible care of his body, but he is entering his 24th NBA season. Brown has accumulated plenty of playoff mileage. Philadelphia does not need all of them healthy every night in November. They need them healthy together in late April, May, and June. Managing workloads throughout the regular season may become just as important as winning games because preserving energy for the postseason is now the priority.